What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Coast to Coast. I'm Ronan Gaine. Joining me, as always, Chris Nambu. Got a lot to talk about on today's show. Unfortunately, we have some negative news to talk about. Luka Doncic went down with what looked like a serious hamstring injury last night when the Lakers were already getting absolutely dematerialized by the Oklahoma City Thunder. So, we're going to talk a bit about that. We got to talk about the MVP race, and I need Chris to explain to me why Victor Wembanyama should be the most valuable player in the NBA this season. And then we got to talk the Eastern Conference playoff picture. It's not set yet, but I think we're kind of getting a clearer idea of the matchups that we're going to see, and we're going to do a little deep dive there of who teams should want to face, their strengths and weaknesses, and the biggest storylines heading into the playoffs out east. But before we get into it all, Chris, how you doing, man?
Dude, I'm good. Fresh off a night shift, was just struggling before this. And you know what I did, Ronan? I stepped outside, and I'm happy to say, I don't know if anyone else on the East Coast has felt this, but it smelled like spring today. It's the first time it smelled like spring. We've had like a week of clouds and rain and cold and seasonal depression. And I'm sure it has nothing to do with the 3 cups of coffee I've had since waking up. But I feel great, man. I think that everything's coming together. We have the NCAA finals coming up. We got playoffs coming up. We got really good basketball if you're not tuning into the tankers recently. But life's good, man. Life's good.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Before we get into the fun stuff, I guess we got to start with the negative stuff. Luka Doncic went down last night. It didn't look great, and then obviously it comes out after that Luka got checked at halftime after tweaking the hamstring. He got cleared. He came back out, and you're kind of like, why did they bother continuing to play
Yeah.
him when they were already down by 21 points?
Yeah. I think you love it because they're not resting guys against crap teams. Played the night before, and he's gonna be competitive. He's gonna stay in this. And for obvious reasons, it's a huge bummer for the type of end of season finish he's having, for the hopes he's been given the Lakers. I think we've had a chance to talk about this over the last few weeks, but I I've really been thinking hard about what I had said a couple months ago, where I posed the question of, is this version of Luka Doncic ever going to win a championship, regardless of what supporting cast to try to put around him? And I mean, we get spurts of this from him at ends of seasons. We have the ups and downs over months in terms of effort, and I think it was just amazing to see how good he's been and how engaged he's been on the defensive end too.
Yeah.
And we saw that same level of Luka Doncic in the Mavericks run to the finals, and you're seeing that again here. And it's just so deflating to see him get hurt here. We, I mean, obviously, I think the immediate relief everyone has when it's a non-contact injury is that, oh, it's not the knee. But I mean, look at what we've seen over the last few years in terms. I mean, look at Zion. Zion's a great example of a guy who, what do you get out of those hamstring injuries? It depends what grade it is. We'll have the MRI results after today, but I don't have great hopes after seeing how much pain he was in. In fact, he wasn't really able to load bear too much. He needed help getting off the court.
Yeah.
That's not a great sign. I mean, I am not an orthopedic surgeon by trade, but what we know about grade 3 strains, that, I mean, he could be out for a month
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah, there's no rushing back from a hamstring injury. You can't like it's not like a sprained ankle. You can't like just play can't just like play through a hamstring injury. You're just not gonna have that mobility, and the second you try to pump it up a gear, it's gonna just go completely. Like we've seen guys try to play through hamstring injuries, like you think like a Aaron Gordon last year in the playoffs, and he was just not. There was no reason for him to ever be out there. OG the previous year for the Knicks in the playoffs, like it was just nothing. They're an injury that you just unfortunately there's just no playing through that sort of injury, and it's so disappointing. It's just like felt like the Lakers' whole season just came crashing and burning last night. It was already starting when they're going up against obviously the favorites, the defending champs OKC, and they're getting their asses handed to them. And then just to double down on it, their best player goes down with an injury that could keep him out for the first round of the playoffs. And if Luka's not there, there's no way in hell the Lakers are getting through the first round of the playoffs.
Yes, I love the PR spin game after, where it's like Bronny and LeBron beating up on the Pacers, father and son. Look at this beautiful thing. Nobody panic. Nobody panic. Bronny's here. Which I thought was actually a cool moment to see them play together. And then they asked Bronny, he's like, "Oh, it's not a big deal. Like, been around each other in basketball for a while. It's like, come on, dude, just say some fun things. Say some fun things, please. But yeah, uh, listen, hey, let's see a little prime LeBron. Maybe he'll step into LeBron form, and the Lakers will keep up their defensive effort. And we know that the defensive chemistry they've put together, maybe they have a chance here. But tough, really tough.
Yeah, it's more like it's interesting to see like can Reeves kind of rediscover that form we saw earlier in the year when both Luka and LeBron were out and he was playing at like an
Mm-hmm.
All NBA sort of level. Can he
Yep.
find that form again for the last few games of the season, help them lock down that third seed, and maybe just maybe it's not as serious for Luka. Maybe he's ready to go for the first round of the playoffs. Like that's the hope that that Lakers fans have to have out there. But it's going to be tough when you just kind of look at the finish of the year. Like they have to play OKC again. They've got some like winnable games. You think the game obviously against the Mavs. I think that's on Sunday. Like there's some winnable games in there for them. Obviously a couple of tough games too. It's going to be interesting to see if the teams behind them can kind of make that jump up now. But this injury rules Luka out of the MVP race. Some will say that he wasn't really in it anyway, and we need to go there. I need you to think. You're a Wemby guy. Please tell me why Victor
Rewind,
Wembanyama.
rewind, rewind.
We got to
No, no, no,
rewind.
no, no, no. Rewind. You just said that Luca wasn't in it to begin with. You don't think he was in it? You don't think he made some
I
strides in
think
this
he was
last
in
month?
it.
Yeah,
I think he was in it.
yeah, I think he was in it. I definitely think
Then off the
that.
wider world of the NBA, the people who actually have a vote thought he was in it.
Yeah, no, no, okay, okay. So just wanted to clarify that point, because I definitely thought, there's a lot to be said about totality of a season and taking that into account. And final season pushes shouldn't be like it should be part of the equation. We shouldn't forget how the rest of the season went too. But I mean, for that being said, I mean, dude's having the most 40-point games, I believe, scored this season. I mean, he's just been incredibly. He scored 100 points in a 24-hour span, which we haven't seen since Wilt. Um, everything since Wilt. But I mean, I definitely think he deserves it, and I think you were going to mention some mention that he could potentially petition if it's just a one game missed, which would be such a funny loophole. Then it's like, well, where do you draw the line? Is it 2 games? Is it 3 games?
Yeah,
Is it
yeah.
5 games? You should just do away with it altogether, in my opinion. Um, but all right, you want to talk about Wemby?
Yeah,
I mean,
please explain to me why he should be the MVP this year.
I mean, okay. Uh, let's start with the eye test. What other? I think there's no other player in the NBA that you're watching right now. I think we've been through this in so many iterations of just kind of maybe vibe basketball. Watch the Giannis MVP year, and we've seen Giannis. I mean, year on year. But when Giannis is really making himself known, it's like this guy does things no one else can do, right? Steph is when this guy does something else, something that nobody else can do, right? When Harden has had his insane year, it's like he's really pushing the boundaries of the 3 point revolution. Nobody's doing like the audacity of the shot making he's making for beyond the arc, and nobody's doing that this year. The the alien type basketball that we've now marketed Wemby as is as advertised. We see it game in game out. We've especially been seeing it as of late, where this is no longer the 3 point and just impossible to score around the rim guy. I mean, he's putting the ball on the floor. He's looked so much stronger this year. The way he's putting the ball on the floor, and he's now getting to the basket, and he's taking on those double teams. He's playmaking. He's just synergizing this entire team. He's now the second in the West. And when you want to talk about, his MVP candidacy, it's obviously all these are going to come down to comparing other players. I don't want to necessarily get into that point, but I mean, his candidacy is pretty obvious in and of himself. The efficiency, the defense, the two-way impact, and the success of the team. And everyone's going to point to, oh, well, he's like the minutes, they're just getting above like 20 minutes a game back then. But what would happen as soon as he would step on the court? I mean, the on-off metrics are obvious. We don't have to get into all the nerdy details of it, but we know that his defensive impact is real. Whether or not he had that stretch coming off the floor, I don't think that necessarily attracts him. I think it's a little unconventional. But we see a lot of unconventional in terms of how teams manage minutes from other players. And I don't think that that should be a disqualifier. I think maybe it's a small asterisk, but if that is your little counterpoint I'm waiting for you to come up with, I don't think it's a huge deal. I think it's something to be said that's different between him and Shea if we're talking about comparison, because I mean Shea is always there. I mean he's always in the starting lineup, and he definitely in his own right is, I think to this point, outside of Jokic, front runner by default. But Wemby absolutely has his case.
Yeah, I don't see it as much, and I'm gonna put it this way: like Nick Wright put it best. I think the MVP award has never been a 50-50 split. It's never been about 50% offense, 50% defense. And that reason that is because they don't have an offensive player of the year award in the NBA, but they do have a defensive player of the year award. So, and I think that's a great point, and that's a very important point when you're talking about Wemby's like candidacy for MVP. Yes, he is unbelievable defensively, 100% the defensive player of the year. But the important thing to note is that Shea Gilgeous-Alexander's offensive impact is greater than Wemby's defensive impact for their respective teams. If you look at the numbers, because Shea's got an offensive rating of 133.5 to Wemby's 121, offensive win shares 10.7 to 4.4, offensive plus minus 8.9 to 6.1. Those are significant differences of 12.5, 6.3, 2.8. And then you look defensive matchups. Defensive rating, Wemby's is the best, 100.8. Shea's 108.4. Defensive win shares, 4.8 to 4. Defensive plus minus, 4.1 to 3. Much smaller gaps between them as a defensive player and an offensive player. And then you just look at the stats straight up. Shea clears them in points per game, nearly 7 more per game. Obviously, Wemby's destroying them. Rebounds, assists, Shea much better. Shooting percentages, Shea much better. 40-point games, Shea 8 to 4. 30-point games, 43 to 16. 20-point games, 65 to 42. And then you look at their team ranks. Wemby obviously first after the Spurs, fourth in assists. He's third in field goal percentage. He's sixth in 3-point percentage. He's actually third in points generated, sixth in minutes, sixth in starts. Shea, first in points, first in assists, second field goal percentage, third 3-point percentage, first points generated, first in minutes, second in starts. Like, I'm sorry, but Shea is the MVP. It's not Wemby.
Yeah, listen, I think there's a very obvious case to be made that Shea's front runner. I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. I think also like the MVP conversation in and of itself is a mental exercise to evaluate who the true best players are in the NBA, and it's a really tough conversation where, I mean, you get to the point where you feel comfortable voting for maybe 3 guys. I mean, it's tough this year. It is really tough. I mean, it's tough every year.
Everyone's
And
booted Jokic out of the race, to be honest. The dude's averaging a triple double, and like some of
yeah,
the
it's
stats you
fatigue.
look
It's
at, like
purely
I
about
like
fatigue.
player efficiency rating. Obviously, Shea's actually won in that, and Wemby's too. But like you think of like plus minus, like win shares, like all that sort of stuff. Wemby or Shea's ahead of Wemby, but Jokic is atop of most of
Yes,
those
yes.
those categories.
Yeah, I mean, I think their on off numbers have equalized a little bit this year compared to before. I mean, Jokic was just far and away way ahead of Shea, but I think you could also argue too when we're talking about defensive impact. I mean, Shea's defensive impact is very real. It's not anywhere close to the degree of Wemby's, but it's far and above what Jokic is. And so I almost feel like, I mean, I really do value the 2-8 impact. I don't think this is an offensive award. I think it often ends up being an offensive award because of the nature of the game. When you have a 5-man game and when you have clutch time stats, I mean, you just look at who gets you a bucket, and that has such a big impact there. So I mean, Wemby's approaching that. I don't think he's there yet. I think I'm comfortable saying he's a very obvious 1B to Shea's 1A, and I think it's more of a conversation, I think, really between your Wemby's versus Jokic's and Doncic's of the world that is an interesting conversation, because I think Shea has won this. I do. I don't disagree with you there. I think the more interesting comparison we value players is like Jokic is obviously at his peak here. I think Wemby will see next year how much further he takes his offensive game. We know how good Jokic is on the offensive floor. We know that the defenses here and there. I think the injuries this year may have had an impact on his movement. And Gordon not always being there is obviously gonna have a number on his defense
It's
as
funny
well.
that like what pure eye test, like obviously I don't think Jokic plays defense really at all, but he's actually tied with Wemby in terms of defensive win shares, which is kind of funny when you think
Uh,
about it.
yeah, I mean a lot of that too is gonna have to do with with lineups, and I I think that the Nuggets system and how they've used Jokic. I mean, it is interesting. I mean, how they use Jokic as like as a help and scrambler, and how he's able to use his hands, and he's not like a traditional like very good defensive drop big, gonna defend the paint very effectively. But I think what we know, what we can obviously say when you watch both players, is that Wemby's impact as a defender is generational.
Yep.
Jokic's impact as a playmaker is generational, and like both of those are, you can argue like whose impact is greater, and that's a fun conversation to get into. I think Shea's won it. If that's what you're trying to get me to say here, I think Shea's won it
No, like
to this point.
that just should be the way. I think people are just like feel like they're in a rush to give Wemby the MVP award when this isn't the year that he is the MVP. Like I want like Wemby will be putting up Giannis numbers probably by next year when he won the MVP, and that's when he can win the award. Then I won't have no qualms about him when he's putting up the level of numbers on the offensive end and he's having equal impact on both ends, which ultimately that is going to come. Wemby will eventually be the best offensive player and the best defensive player in the league and a default MVP. But that man, he must have one hell of a PR team. He has just become the media darling. Obviously, he come out with his whole spiel about the game is 50% defense and all that sort of stuff. Everyone loved that. And then he came out saying how much he wanted to win MVP. And everyone's like, oh, it's great to see someone with such passion. Everybody wants to fucking win MVP. Wemby's not the first guy to come out and say,
That's not
I
true.
want to
I
win
mean,
MVP.
well, no,
Everything, the whole narrative is just flipped. And everyone's like, last year, if Shea had said, I want to win MVP, everyone would be like, why is he saying this? He should be focused on winning a championship. OKC are the best team in the West. Why is he talking about winning MVP? His whole focus should be on the championship. This year, Wemby's focus is on winning the MVP, and everyone's like, yeah, that's great. I love seeing that. I just think that everyone's like flipping for him too soon. People are just like just falling into that trap where he is going to be the guy eventually. He's winning Defensive Player of the Year this year, without doubt. So long as he plays for the last 5 games, he does have to do that to qualify. Just to preface that, Shea is actually the only one who qualifies to win MVP as things stand right now. Both Jokic and Wemby both have to play 4 of the last 5 games, which I'm sure they will. No more back-to-backs for the Spurs, so I assume that was they always planned to sit Wemby last night, and then they still obviously went and won easily against the Clippers. But I just think people are trying to push Wemby too soon, and I'm sure this probably happened with LeBron James as well. There was probably an argument there. Like obviously, I think he finished second in MVP, at the same age as Wemby at 22. And I think I get like wanting to do the push, but I just think it would be ridiculous if he were to win MVP this year. I don't think it would be justified. I think there would be like an award that he didn't fully earn, in my opinion. I want to wait and see him be a legitimate like best in the conversation for best offensive player, while we know he already is the best defensive player.
Yeah, that's fair. I think 2 things. I think one, I don't agree with the whole like narrative thing, man. I think people genuinely like young guys to be hungry and like really push for these awards. And I mean, I don't know. Like LeBron has even mentioned how like he should have won more, and I don't disagree with him. And I think that these guys are acutely aware of their legacy, and I respect the hey, it's about team, it's about winning. It is, but these awards matter too. And I mean that it's not just an award for the player; it's an award for the team too. It's like best player, best team, right? And I mean, Jokic when he was like, I don't really care. I don't care about awards. I don't care about awards. I don't want to care awards. Let's just win. Let me go
People
see my
love that as
horses.
well, though. People
It's
love that for
cool.
different
Yeah,
reasons.
it's
People are like,
cool.
look, we're all over that. And now it's like flipped it. Like, Wemby's going
Yeah,
the other way. Like, oh, yeah, we'll love that now instead.
yeah. I mean, dude. I mean, Wemby has like cried on multiple occasions after close regular season wins. Man, this guy freaking loves basketball. He loves this sport, and I, it's not cringe. I think it's genuine, and I think he legitimately wants to be the best player ever. And that kind of fire, that desire, that understanding of legacy in this moment, I think is what's gonna continue to drive him to be great. Um, but the fact that he's already in this conversation with such tough competition, I mean, you keep really scaling forward these expectations that I keep setting every year, man. Because would you say at the beginning of the year, oh no, they're not ready for the playoffs? They'll maybe be in the play-in, but either second seed, and we're talking about MVP right now. You're like, he's not gonna be. Listen, man, it's coming. Whether you like it or not, it's coming. And I
No,
think the fact that
no, it absolutely is coming, but just wait. It doesn't have to come right now. That's the point that I'm making. It's
no,
like
no,
you
it's
can
fair.
make a legitimate argument that he's not even in the top 10 in terms of offensive players in the league right now. There is that argument is legitimately there. He generates the third most points on his team. De'Aaron Fox and who blanking on his name, the other Stephon Castle generate more points than Wembanyama for the Spurs. So like when that's the case, still the case, I don't see how Wembanyama can be the most valuable player in the NBA. I'm sorry.
That's a good, so that's a great question. Does does Wembanyama need to be the number one scorer on his team to ever win an MVP?
Yeah. When has like he has to be the highest point generator? Absolutely. When has an MVP ever not been the highest point generator on their team?
Well, I mean, do we argue that it is so we are making this purely an offensive award?
No, like he
I
like I'm
think
not
it's
saying he has to be the
weighted
league
heavily.
leader. I don't think he has to be the league leader, but yeah, I'm sorry, you have to be the best. That you have to do that for your team. Like, if you can give me more than one example, is there even an example, or give me more than one example of a player that
No,
wasn't leading their team?
no,
Exactly. So
yeah, no. But I'm saying like where like
we can't just
is he
change
the
the
exception?
the meaning for the award. It's always going to lean a bit more towards offense.
Yeah,
That's just a fact because there is
but
no offensive player of the year. But I'm not
that's not.
saying we just negate the defensive side of it. Wemby is going to be doing that probably by next season. He's going to be doing both of those things, and he's probably going to be MVP and defensive player of the year. But this year, he's not.
Yeah, I just envision there's a possibility that he won't be a the number one scorer. He won't be on his team.
I mean, he's
I
still
mean,
the number one like scorer in terms of points per game. He is just
in
the
terms
lead
of points
scorer
generated, I mean,
and
with
total points, but generated, he is in
I think
third.
the best version of the Spurs, he's not generating the most points. I mean, a lot of that too is skewed in terms of
He'll get bumped up though because he'll be averaging
how
more points per game.
yeah, well, fair, but how do you measure his gravity, right? How do you measure how often the Castle's running an action off ball and Wemby's cutting to the rim and he just takes three guys with him, and then Castle gets an easy assist like that. That's Wemby doesn't get credit for that, but when you're watching what's happening on the screen, the game is real easy for everybody. And that's not to say that's not something that happens for Shea. Like Shea's drawing double, triple teams on his drives all the time. And my last question is: do we care about ethical basketball? Do we care about ethical basketball? Who would you
We're
rather
gonna get
turn on
into
the
that, yeah.
TV and watch? Or do you want to watch a 12-foot guy diving on the floor, grabbing basketballs, playing rough in the paint, not seeking contact and flailing his body everywhere? I love Shea. I love that. I will never be a full proponent of like I hate his game. Like I think he's a incredibly intelligent basketball player and he knows how to play. I was a big. I mean,
Hey,
he's a.
you must have been happy to see that foul he got called for against the Pistons, huh? You must have enjoyed that.
I was, yeah. And I love like how his retorts to Jaylen Brown essentially like, and you saw how he was praising Jaylen Brown for getting to the line, that it's a good skill and that they're very good at creating contact. I thought that was funny. Um, but all in all, I will concede to you. I do agree that Shea is the clear winner to this point. And I think that Wemby's knocking on the door, and I think that he's on schedule, ahead of schedule. He's right where he needs to be as the next face of the league.
Yeah, you could be whatever way you want to put it. Like he's going to be in the conversation almost definitely to probably he'll probably get second place this year, at least probably top three, I would imagine, especially if Luka is not eligible and maybe if Jokic isn't even eligible either. It would be interesting to see how it ends up going. But yeah, like I'm just saying that like he is going to get that. Like I have no doubts that Wemby probably by this time next year there'll be no conversation about who the MVP is. It'll just be yeah, it's 100%
Yeah,
Wemby because I
I
fully
don't know.
believe
I think it's still gonna be close. I think it's still gonna be close.
there's still going to be conversations. Jokic will probably be averaging another triple double. Maybe he doesn't get injured next year. Hopefully, Luka will be healthy as well. There'll still be conversations, but I think Wemby will have a significantly stronger case. And I think a lot of people around the league will be looking at him and saying that he is obviously we know there's when he's on the floor, he's the best defensive player in the league, 1,000%. And then there'll be a lot more people, myself included, that will be like, yeah, he's also in the conversation for the best offensive player in the league as well.
Yeah,
That like I believe he'll be putting up like similar numbers to Giannis. Maybe not quite the assist numbers, but in terms of like the points per game, the stocks are going to be way up there. He's definitely just going to improve again. He'll take another leap as an offensive player, and that's when I think it's more it's a fairer to put him in the conversation for MVP.
yeah. The last thing I'll say just about the whole defense thing is that I think we should be consistent in how we talk about it because we can't compare peak Luka, peak Tatum in their seasons and be like, well, one's playing a lot more defense than the other, and then use that as a variable. We can't do the same thing with Shea. Oh, look, Shea's playing defense. Luka's not really playing defense. Brunson, he's scoring a lot. He's creating a lot of offense. He's like the only option. He's the only hope for the Knicks to win, but he doesn't play a lot of defense. He's a liability. So there's clear defense. Clearly, is an important variable, and I think Wemby's defensive impact, or anybody's defensive impact, anyone who's approaching MVP status, I think it is important that we recognize that I think someone's defensive impact could possibly tip the scales even further. And it's not just a, hey, do your bare minimum, do your part. It's a, hey, like you are game changing, not just elite defensively, like the best defense, like you are absolutely game changing. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally fair, and that just goes back to I think my main point on this year is the fact that Shea's offensive impact is significantly above Wemby's defensive impact when you compare like the two.
Fair?
So I think that's why it's fair this year for it to be Shea, and I think next year that gap will be a lot smaller.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, but
just had to
talking,
get that off my chest. I'm like I'm not quite the Wemby guy that you are. I know I've admitted in the past there's something inside me that wants to hate him for some reason, but
I don't get it.
this
I
is not
never will.
this is not about hating of Wemby. This is just saying don't give him an award before he
Yeah,
deserves it.
that's fair.
That's what I'm saying here. He's gonna
That's fair.
be a multi-time MVP. You don't need to just give him one just for the sake of it. Let him go and actually earn it. And I think that it'll mean even more to him if he goes doesn't win it this year, gets second place. He'll have the type of player. He'll have that chip on his shoulder, and he'll go and do great things next year. And that will start probably in the playoff run that they go on this year.
Yeah. And talking about discussing things before they've earned it, we talked about the Knicks early in the season. They were just the de facto. They were going to the championship. They were going to be in the finals. It just is a matter of how good they get this year before they win it. But we'll be talking about that next, right after this break. All right, we are back, and we are going to jump over in Coast to Coast fashion over to the East. We're going to be talking about the meat of the middle of the playoff contention. We know the Celtics and Pistons are slotted 1 and 2. Unlikely that's going to change. We're going to talk about some Knicks, some 76ers. We're going to talk about the Cavs, Hawks. Talked a little bit about the Hornets already. I don't think I have the heart to talk about the Magic. And Heat, you're cool, but you give up too many points, so maybe we'll talk about you when we get a little closer to the plan. But let's start with the Knicks. As I had mentioned, transitioning into this, we crowned them early on in the season. They're kind of the odds-on favorite. They're going to get to the finals. They'll be probably number one in the East. We're going to assume a lot of improved chemistry, that we're going to see the defense get more consistent, that with Brown, we're going to see a different type of offense that's really going to allow Cat to be a better hub. He's going to, just be better. You're going to see him be better. Cat's been different this year. Cat's had his ups and downs. He's had some difficulty finding his way. We know what we've been seeing here over the last 30 games, really. Um, I just want to start with the story. So, the biggest story into the playoffs, I'd say, is just eh, middling results. Like talking about chemistry, and the creeping conversation that really started in around December time is the largest expectations that they've had for years, and that Dolan said this is a championship or bust. So, I mean, number one, where did the chemistry go? And if they don't reach the finals, I mean, what happens?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't know. It's such an interesting one. I mean, we talked about it when they decided to dismiss Thibodeau. I still believe it was the right decision, but it was also the question of, okay, you've made this decision to get rid of him. The next guy you bring in has to be unequivocally the improvement, the right guy. That has to be like your Phil Jackson level. Like that had to be that sort of like guy making taking that team from this really good team to this great team. That had to be that guy. And there's been moments throughout the season where you thought that is Mike Brown. He's getting this team. He's got this team rolling. And then there's been other times this season where you're kind of like, is this team actually better than they were last year? Are they better off without Thibodeau? I think you can go for two ways with this on the like the depth side and the role player side. I think we've seen the improvement there. We've gotten contributions from many more players on the team, and you feel more confident about them depth wise going into the playoffs. But on the flip side of that, Cat's numbers are down across the board, and I really don't know, is that a choice that Mike Brown has made to kind of take the ball out of his hands to draw up less plays for him, or is this just kind of what we know from Cat to be that just that mental side just isn't strong enough to keep doing it year on year?
Yeah, the cat thing is a big mystery. It's probably both, and you don't see a lot of clear cut pick and pop opportunities given to him, at least recently. Um, just as a whole, how have they done against good teams? They've been solid. They've been 26-22 against 500 teams.
Mm.
Uh, in terms of their clutch game, they've been in a lot of 10-point games. They've been in 48 10-point games. Not a whole lot of blowouts this year. Um, but they're 30-18 in those games. In the last 30 games, they're 20-10. So like it's just been they've been very consistently inconsistent, and for the most part, good, very good. It's just reaching that pinnacle that we've not seen them do. I think my biggest concern though in that pattern is that in the last uh, 5 games against 500 teams, they lost pretty handily. They've lost 5 recent games in a row,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the cat thing is a question mark. I think what we can point to though is that's worrying me. I don't know what you feel their biggest weakness is, but the defense has been inconsistent. The defensive chemistry has not been there, and it's a little switch it on during the playoffs. Okay, that's fine. It's just that giving up buckets in transition, and the on top of the obvious weakness, which we constantly see and we're seeing more of recently, is the Brunson and Cat lineups. I mean, the Hornets just absolutely went after Brunson every single possession. They went after Cat. If they get both of them, that's just fried chicken. That's barbecue chicken. That's just easy, easy buckets. And there wasn't a lot that the Knicks could do about it. Just kind of go under, hope that they don't make a shot. And
There
if
was a
that,
shot that night as well. There's the 3 point shot was a big difference maker in that game.
yeah. And it's been a difference maker in a lot of games with the worst teams in the league and giving up 3 point shots. Um, so is this something that just changes night one of the playoffs? Maybe. Um, I don't know how you feel about how that's been. I think we've been discussing it throughout the year, and now that we're knocking on the playoffs, nothing's changed much. Do you still feel like the defensive chemistry will come around? We could talk all day about all the defensive pieces they have. We know what Mitchell Robinson looks like in the playoffs. We've seen his high moments. We've also seen that for a team that can really shoot the rock like the Hornets, they can also target Robinson. They could pull him out of the paint. They could really force him into action, and that's not where he's comfortable either. So where are we at this point?
I mean, as just as a fan of the Knicks, I've been all over the place this year. Obviously, the start of the year it was
Yeah.
obviously super concerning with the way that they were performing on the road. They couldn't really get anything going, and then at the same time, we knew last year Knicks did, during the playoffs, the Knicks pretty much did their best work completely on the road, and this year during the regular season, it's been much more of a homestand that's really kind of helped bump up their record. Then I go to a stage where I'm kind of like, oh, it's fine. This Knicks team don't really care about the regular season. They're kind of built for the playoffs. And now I'm kind of in a mode where I'm kind of like, I just need the regular season to end. I'm kind of going into the playoffs with my lowest expectations of the last three seasons, and maybe that's why they'll do better than in the last two seasons. That's kind of where I am as a fan right now. I'm kind of going in expecting the worst, so maybe we'll ultimately see the best. But I just think the biggest swing for the Knicks. I know we talk about the defensive side of it, but it's really two things. It's like I mentioned with Cat. The Knicks are 12-4 this year when he has 25 points or more. They're 20-11 when he has 2 3-pointers made or more. Like they need Cat to be at the level he was last season in the playoffs. And then, of course, it comes back to that 3-point shot. When that 3-point shot is falling for New York, they are one of the best teams in the NBA. But when it's not, they start to get stuck in the mud a little bit. They've gone through games where they are just throwing up brick after brick after brick, and they really don't have, especially when playing against the better teams, they do not really have that plan B. The shot really, in my opinion, is kind of the biggest differential for New York. Whether or not that 3-point shot is falling consistently and they're outscoring their opponents from three, that's really if that's happening consistently throughout the playoffs, the Knicks still have a great shot at making the NBA Finals. I'm not ready to say that they're going to challenge whoever comes out of the West, probably OKC, but if that shot is falling, that's going to give them a better shot of taking down the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, and then we know their greatest strength. I think it's always going to be Brunson, especially in a playoff setting. Like he's just a playoff bucket machine, and as the game gets a little slower, a little
Yeah, slower pace shoots the Knicks down to a T,
yeah,
to be honest.
yeah. When the Knicks are sped up a little bit, it starts to get a little dicey.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Defensive upside, I think they have in a playoff setting is very high. If they have plenty of defensive playmakers, um, but it's always just gonna be a question of the Cat Brunson lineups. Is how are
Yeah.
they going to make up for that? And the regular season is a long one. Can you commit so much help defense and effort rotation throughout the whole season and survive that? Maybe not. Maybe that's something that you start to implement more in the playoffs. But it's now's the time better than ever. I think the team's comments recently of just going in the wrong direction. The recent loss to the Rockets was really rough.
Yeah.
Um, so it's a big prove it time, and their matchup coming up is really intriguing. It looks like it may be the 76ers, correct?
Yeah.
And let's jump over to the 76ers here because they are so intriguing. We know their potential, we know their talent level, and the story going into the playoffs. I mean, is just their surging health, and it's like,
Are
hey,
they healthy? That's always what it is at Philly.
no, but
Every
right now,
damn year.
yes, that's
Are
the
they
story. Is
healthy?
like, hey, they're kind of healthy at the right time for the first time in a long time. It's too good to be true because I mean they've obviously like this season you can't really look at the record against 500 teams or 17-30 because they've had so many stretches without their key guys. All three of the top players have been hurt at any given moment in time. Paul George does look rejuvenated after this little suspension. It's probably the best thing that could have happened. Um, Record in the last 30 games is 17-13, but they're really peaking recently. Um, I think we can talk about how good this team could be. What's our besides health? I think one concern I have is just their defensive chemistry at times. This is obviously a product of not being on the floor together for very long throughout the season.
Mm-hmm.
Um, no, Embiid has been a little bit step slow. Paul George looks good on ball defensively right now. VJ's been great defensively. Maxi's still continuing to be good. As a whole, though, you still you saw it as a product recently from their Heat game. How a lot of they've not really coordinated their off-ball defense well. They've given up a lot of drives to the rim. Teams that are implementing a lot more off-ball movement been tougher than track at times. It's not consistent there, but I think again, like they're just looking at the whole. They have all the talent they need. They're surprisingly deep. They're no name guys. Their Barlows have been fantastic. Oubre continues to be very good. Now he's back. This is not a fun looking first matchup for the Knicks. Just maybe going transitioning over to like 76ers more centric view we should do, but just focusing here on the Knicks a little bit. As we're closing in on this likely matchup, are we worried that this is a bad matchup, or is this one that you think they can take advantage of?
I think the Knicks take advantage of that matchup. I think we can. I think we can expose Joel Embiid's the lesser impact we know he's going to have defensively now compared to a couple of years ago. Obviously, I'd be super excited if we're going to get a series like we did in 2023, like or was it, no, sorry, 2024. Like that was probably my favorite playoff series I've watched in the Eastern Conference in a long time. Was that matchup? Obviously, it helped the Knicks came out on top of that. I think the Knicks will have a bit more, even more of an edge over the 76ers than they did then. We obviously know there's moments like Tyrese Maxey. He's a guy that's going to step up in the playoffs. George just doesn't strike the fear into me anymore. I think that with Bridges and with OG, I feel like we could do a pretty good job putting the clamps on him on the offensive end. I wouldn't be scared of facing the 76ers in a first round matchup, if I'm being totally honest.
Yeah, I think the the reason I've consistently like walked away from the individual defensive talents of OG and Bridges though is it's not a one-on-one game when you're playing a team like the 76ers, because I think what we've seen the Knicks have to deal with in terms of like their defensive chemistry is when they get tilted, when they get in rotation, when they're in the blender. And why does that happen? Oh, you got Brunson in action. All right, Brunson's under the screen. Someone's got to help over. Are you helping a little bit too much? Now you got to open a shooter. And in case I know the Hornets were shooting the leather off the ball, but that's really great case of that. It's like Con Knipple's got the ball. Okay, come here. Cat getting and Cat's a little bit too far back. Okay, there's a shot. Cat's a little too far up. Now we got to drive. Now we're rotating from the corner. Oh, now all the Hornet shooters are wide open. And you look at games like that, and you look at Tyrese Maxey, who, I mean, that's going to be really, really interesting where you line up that match. I think you probably want Josh Hart on him. Maybe you're throwing Brunson on VJ. And then I think Nick Nurse is a smart guy. He's going to know how to get VJ open. He's going to really have Brunson work hard on that. So how long does that matchup work? And at the end of the day, you're still going to maybe you're going to have inverted screens. You're going to have Tyrese and VJ. You've seen them do a lot of that that small screening actions. And the backline help of Cat, is Cat going to get confused? Is Cat going to be in the right place? Is he going to be too far back? Are they going to give up a lot of shots? 76ers have shown that they can create a lot of 3-point shots out of those actions. And then, all right, you go to a zone and beat. I mean, Embiid just has made a living off of just tearing apart zones. You know, put him in the middle. We've seen that Knicks' help defense has not been great, and then Embiid's going to be able to kick out. So they have a lot of optionality. I think that a lot of I think what intrigues me is on the point of Cat is Cat has huge potential in this matchup to, if he's matched up on Embiid, if they're not throwing a Paul George at him or Kelly Oubre at him, Barlow at him, if he gets the matchup against Embiid, can he be aggressive from the perimeter? Can he really do what he does best, which is attacking slower-footed bigs? Like, that's where Cat is elite, in my opinion. Is he can put the ball on the floor and he can get past them. He has enough strength and he has enough finesse to outplay bigs on the perimeter. But I don't think I've seen enough from his 3-point shooting this year where, oh, he's just going to be a lights-out shooter this year. He's like, he needs to be really getting downhill and attacking this defense and getting Embiid tired, like working Embiid. That would be where I feel like that's the exciting part here. If Cat can really gain momentum early on in the playoffs by having a big series here.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the Knicks will need that, but I think it's also fair to say that all the points you made for how the 76ers could expose the Knicks could probably expose the 76ers in those exact same ways on the defensive end. Obviously, like no, Maxi's obviously a little bit above Brunson, but it's not a guy that they wouldn't have any problem like targeting. We
I,
know Embiid.
I'd say a Maxi is far in terms of defender
Okay,
is
fine, far
much
better.
better defender
He
for
got the
Brunson.
lateral speed. I guess he's got that. Definitely got that over Brunson. Brunson takes charges though, man. Come on.
Okay, fair. I mean, it's not
But
entirely a Maxi versus Brunson thing, but I think
just in
the
general, like
yeah
I think the Knicks maybe not to the extreme level, like maybe the 76ers don't have kind of the weak defender like a Jalen Brunson, but I think the Knicks could definitely still expose the 76ers in a lot of similar ways, like you mentioned that they could do to the Knicks. My biggest thing that I don't have the fear of playing the 76ers, they don't have that on ball defender to really make Brunson uncomfortable. That would strike more fear into me. Like you look at the Pistons with Asar Thompson, he's made Jalen
yeah
Brunson
yeah
super uncomfortable. In the playoffs previously, like Nemhard has always given Jalen Brunson like a really hard time. The Pacers always just had that little guy who was just always around him, never leaving his side and like being on his hip at all times. So I think that's the team that has those sort of players scare me more than the
yes
76ers.
yes. I think that this is going to be a huge offensive series for Cat and Brunson. I think Brunson's going to absolutely eat up their guards, and then they can create a lot of advantages for that. I do think so. I think it's going to be a high scoring matchup. The defenses are going to have a lot of trouble for multiple reasons. And I do think Knicks probably come out on top, but I don't think this is a 5 game series. This is a 6, 7 game series, in my opinion. And you're
You would
not
hope so. With that
thinking
talent
about the
level
biggest
on both
factor.
teams, you would hope it would go that far.
You're not thinking about the biggest factor here is the Grimes revenge game, man. It's coming. It's coming.
Hey, who knows? It might not even happen. Like it's going to be a good battle between the Cavs and the Knicks to nab that 3 seed in the end. The Knicks basically have their last sort of gimme game of the year against the Chicago Bulls tonight, and you never really know. The
Please,
Chicago Bulls could
please
show up.
destroy us. Please,
Yeah,
please.
I mean, I hope we're both hoping for the same thing here, but you never know. But the Bulls like to throw a curveball out there. The biggest thing that's on the Knicks side is they've got 4 of their last 5 at home, which is obviously helpful for them. But they face the Celtics, Hawks, Hornets, and Raptors after the Bulls. Where the Pacers or the Cavs, sorry, they got 3 of 5 at home, but they still have the Wizards, Pacers, and Grizzlies on their schedule. 2 against the Hawks. That could be interesting. But I feel like the Cavs arguably have a slightly easier run in, but the Knicks can go one game, or it's one game at the moment. They can go 2 games ahead tonight, and they have the tiebreaker. So the Knicks like definitely need to not give the Bulls not give the Bulls any room to get comfortable. They got to like put their foot down for the moment from the tip tonight and get that job done for sure.
Yeah. And the Cleveland Cavaliers, I think they're still going to the playoffs. They're getting healthy at the right time. You got Strus back, you got Wade back in a season where they've had 36 different lineups. I mean, it's been looking good for them recently. They're getting healthy at the right time. Um, Obviously, they
No,
made that huge trade, Garland for Harden. And do they have the chemistry right now to make this run? We've always talked about those in-season trades. They rarely ever lead to long, deep playoff runs.
mm-hmm.
And we've seen a lot of very good offense here. How are we feeling about them going into this?
Yeah, this is the Cavs are so interesting because you're kind of you look at them and obviously we know last year they were the best team in the regular season. Then they weren't healthy for the playoffs, which is obviously was a bummer. But then you look at them now and you're like, okay, are a healthy Cavaliers team the best team in the Eastern Conference? That is the question that you're asking now, and you it's hard to like really argue against them. It's just going to be interesting to see when that game slows down a bit. Does Mobley offer that offensive punch that they need from him? Does the Garland or does the Mitchell Harden backcourt get exposed a little bit defensively? It's going to be really interesting to see. The Cavs are a very, very interesting team going into the
Yeah.
playoffs.
Well, I think that the nice thing here on two fronts is that you could say, oh, well, we've seen Harden throw up stinkers in the playoffs. You've seen that Mobley can't really get to that level he needs to. I think their offense is predicated on system rather than just ISO post ups, just that pick and roll. I think they've been Um, Arguably the best offense in basketball in this last stretch. Their lineup with Harden now is 97th percentile. They're plus 36.7 net rating. And we see how they create their offense. They do it through, that they're constantly creating offense through Harden and through Mitchell and through screening with their bigs. They have elite 3-point shooters, and now they've added Strus and Wade to the mix. I think I think we've hopefully mentioned it recently, but I mean, Tyson has been such a great addition to this team. Merrill has continued to be an elite 3-point shooter. Getting Strus back at this level to get him back into the mix and get him shooting the rock, like they have just bountiful shooting. They have two of the best creators in the game who have elite chemistry with their bigs, who are also great at passing the short roll, passing the middle of the floor, and that's allowed for them to have what I think might be the best offense, at least in the Eastern Conference, if not in the league right now. Is that offense going to hold up in a physical environment where they've constantly been pushed? Like, do these guys crumble under physical pressure? Maybe. Again, it's another season to prove it. But they've been okay against 5 other teams. They've been 26-23. They've also had a lot of clutch games. They've had 41 of them. They've been 25-16 in those. Been solid. But their record in the last 30 games has been good too. 21-9. Their defense is going to be the big question mark. We know what their bigs can look like. They don't have a lot of elite perimeter defenders, and we know what we're going to see from Mitchell and Harden. But I think their offense is good enough, man. I think that they've shown that they've got the chemistry, they've got the system, they've got the shooting, they've got the chemistry between their bigs and their lead guards. I'm excited to see what they do.
Yeah, no, me too. Like the Cavs are probably. I feel like they're the scariest. They might just be the scariest team in the East. If like speaking as a fan of a team in the East that are going to be in the playoffs. Yeah, like obviously I have to still kind of be a little bit bullish about the thought of the Knicks playing the Celtics, believing maybe Tatum is not at full tilt. Maybe they don't have the same bigs that they had last year. Maybe the Knicks are going to be able to take advantage of that. And then the Pistons, we still don't know what's going on with Cade, and also we know that they've been the best team in the East all season, so we kind of know what we're going to get from them. We already have the right to have that fear. The Cavs are just kind of that question mark because we obviously only had that one matchup since they made the trade. The Cavs did a job on us, but we were missing a couple of players that night. We couldn't hit a shot to save our lives. It would just be. I would love to see them going toe to toe where the shot is actually falling for the Knicks, and that will give us a clear picture of who is actually the better team. But the shooting that they've got around Harden and Mitchell, the big man chemistry, like you mentioned, with Allen and Mobley, that both Harden and Mitchell have with those two guys, their offense really they could be ready to produce at like insane levels and go on a real deep playoff run.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely a big contrast to a team like the Pistons, and that would be a really fascinating matchup in the playoffs. Just like two total opposites. And you're just going against sheer will and force, physicality against a pure finesse of this team. And you can argue that the Pistons have their own problems. How are they going to deal with their real shooting deficiencies in the
Yeah,
playoffs? Are they going to be able to keep up that physicality as other teams ramp that up? But
that's why I want to see a Pistons and Hornets matchup.
yes, that
The
I
Hornets,
mean,
the Hornets shooting could just make the Pistons sweat just a little bit. Once Cade's back, I think they'll come out with the win. But I feel like the Hornets are the team that in the first round that could maybe make the Pistons sweat the most.
yeah, yeah, and you know the Hornets. Stay on the Hornets. Like, yeah, the biggest. We won't go too deep in the Hornets because I think we've had a good enough chat about them recently. But on rookies, man, I'm really curious to see how Khan holds up. They'll
Mhm.
really test him. He's a solid defender. He's been solid. But I think a team like the Pistons in particular will be like, all right, let's see how you do when we go at you 8 plays in a row.
Mhm.
Where's your help coming from? And can we create off of that? Especially if Cade's feeling comfortable getting back into the mix. Um, But I think the interesting matchup here for our Cavs, even if they end up with the Hawks, that that'd be fun. That'd be very fun. The Hawks have been good. I think a lot of people are calling fool's gold. They played some bad teams. Yes, they're 22-8. Let's not look at the teams they've played, but they've been good. They've been very good since Trey. And it's not just about some really hot shooting. A lot of it's been about their defense.
Yeah.
And they've been elite defensively. And it's not just a subtraction of Trey, but their 5-man lineup is just suffocating. Very athletic. They can switch everything. They're very crisp on their rotations, and they're a blur in the fast court and in the fast break. Jalen Johnson's been excellent playmaking. CJ's been a really interestingly more efficient, less turnover friendly player for this team than Trey. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker is just absolutely thriving. He's averaging 22, 3, and 4 on insane efficiency. In the last 18 games, he's averaging 22, 3, and 4 on 51%, 46% from 3. And everyone else is thriving. Field goal percentage for the whole team is up. Turnovers are down. Their starting lineup, I believe, to this date, it's the best defensive rating of starting lineups in the league. And the offense that we're seeing here, everyone's touching the ball. Everyone's moving. You're seeing that Quinn Snyder is able to implement more sets. And this is not just a high screen and roll, Trey, create for someone else. Everyone kind of stands still. We're seeing a lot of Horns action. We're seeing Nickeil Alexander-Walker playing in his elite role, like as an off-ball creator, shooter, cutter, and the type of offense they're creating off of that. Jalen Johnson just being able to be a lead creator has not been talked about enough this year. I think we've mentioned a few times now, he's really in elite company as a wing creator. And you could call them fool's gold. You could say they haven't played great competition, but you see the ingredients to a team that I think is going to be a problem for a team like the Caps.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of waiting to see. Like, it's full gold until we're proven wrong. Like, is Jalen Johnson ready to deliver at this like almost near triple double like level in the playoffs? Can Nikhil Alexander will his scoring and shooting hold up in a playoff setting? We've obviously only kind of seen him be like a tertiary scorer or kind of just a shooter in playoff settings previously. Like what can other guys do? Like can Kaminga have an impact like he did last year when Curry went out for the Warriors? Like it's just so interesting with the Hawks. It's just so fun. Like it seems to be get traded to the Hawks or get signed by the Hawks, and you have a big surplus in your career. Like Dyson Daniels was pretty much a nobody. He goes to the Hawks. He's somebody. Then Nikhil Alexander Walker, the exact same. Maybe is Kaminga. We haven't really seen it yet, but maybe could that come in a playoff setting? If it holds up, they'll definitely be a problem for the Cavs. It's just like I think it's fair to kind of say fool's gold for right now. I'm interested to see them in a playoff setting and see how much of this quality and signs that we've seen, how much of it holds up in a playoff setting.
Yeah, and I think the the thing is for the defense. Look at all these teams in the East; they're all very flawed, and the Hawks are. I think their biggest flaw. You'll say, all right, you need a bucket, Jalen Johnson. All right, let's see you do it with the full court press. Let's see you do it. We're going to trap you, and we're going to force the ball on Dyson Daniels. Dyson, go ahead, go shoot, go create a bucket. If you're not, okay, great. We're going to leave you even more open. Risa Shea, look, are you going to really prove it? Playoff series? So let's see it. And the pressure is going to be on their guys who in the
Forget
regular
about
season.
Lisa Shea, don't you?
Yeah, he's been great. He's been good. He's been exactly what they need him to be. But their roles are going to be even more important on offense as that's going to be highlighted. But on the defensive end, it's like, who do you poke? Who's your matchup? Like the Cavs, they want to matchup hunt. They want to get Harden on a weaker defender, work from there. Where's that weaker defender? Not
Yeah.
really one. I think that's their greatest skills. That pretty much everyone they're putting on the floor at any given time is a plus defender, plus length, plus athleticism, and that's not going to win them a series, but it's going to really keep them in games, and
Yeah.
it's going to be a huge, huge pressure on Jalen Johnson to really elevate his game and CJ to show up. CJ's had his moments that have come and went, and it's a great opportunity for both of them for this young team to really make some noise. And you got to be scared. I mean, the Cavs have had their share of nightmarish first round matchups and underestimating opponents. And hopefully, this is not another chapter in that saga.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, we've seen the Hawks go on a villain run before. We the Knicks
Mm-hmm.
know all about that. Uh, I think say on that, like I'm happy to see McCollum back on a team that are going to be in the playoffs. Though, like CJ McCollum is such a competent pro. It's good to see him back on a team that are trying to win and are going to be in a playoff setting. It's such a shame that he's just kind of been on like the Pelicans and the Wizards. Like it's just a shame that like the some years in his career where he's still really a productive player. It's a shame that he's not on a team that are like contending, at least being like a six man even on a winning team. It's good to see him back in that sort of situation.
Yeah, he's just exactly what this Hawks team needed. That could not have been stressed enough. Like what the level of his consistency is going to bring to this team, and he's not someone who's going to suck the ball away. He's going to be able to play off of Jalen Johnson. I think that Jalen's going to have his challenging moments, and he's going to turn to CJ. It's going to be a big series for him for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that, but I know it's obviously not set. There's still like a tight battle. I think it's 2.5 games separate 10th through sixth in the Eastern Conference right now. But I feel like the six teams currently occupying those top six places are the six best teams in the Eastern Conference. So I think we can probably safely say that they will be the six teams that finish there. But there's obviously a few other teams to mention. We talked briefly about the Hornets, but like you look at like the Magic. Let's just touch on them quickly. Like, is this the end of Mosley in Orlando?
Yeah, yeah. His most recent comment was wild. It was against the Raptors when they gave him a 30-point run, and he said, "That's on me as a coach to not prepare my team to play with enough physicality." I mean, it's like just say it, just say it. And he's a lame duck coach. I'm surprised it took this long. Um, and I feel bad. I think this team has had so much potential. I still believe in a lot of talent on this team, but I think that we can confidently say that this is probably the end of the Franz and the Banchero experiment. And I just looking forward into the future, we're kind of like getting on that. We're approaching the crossroads of who we think Banchero is. No one's set in stone, but he's still not the primary leader of a very good championship team.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Early.
Yeah, he has had a nice bounce back since kind of like turn of the year, All Star break. He has started to look more like the player we all kind of hoped that he would be. But yeah, still not locked in. I'm interested to see if he can kind of take that form potentially into the playoffs. We'll see how they get on in the playing tournament, but into next year as well. He really needs to kind of it kind of feels like almost like a now or never sort of moment next season for Banquero to really like establish himself as one of the best players in the Eastern Conference. What about the Raptors? The Raptors, it's come together, I guess, better than we thought it was, but I really don't have any kind of fear of them. I would love it if they were able to get up into the sixth seed. I feel like that'd be an easy one for the Knicks to take advantage of. If we can add that three seed and the Raptors find a way into the six, I'd love that. Don't really fear for the Raptors as a playoff threat.
Yeah, it's it's very easy to take them out of their offense.
Mm,
It's very hard to score on them. They're very
true.
good defensively, and you never know what kind of version of Ingram you're going to get.
That's true.
They just don't have enough offensively, I think, to feel confident in a 7 game series.
Hmm.
I mean, they're going to come out of the play-in absolutely. I have
Yeah.
no doubt of that. I don't believe in the Heat. I think that their defense recently has been in poor form, and every time you say I don't believe in the Heat, I feel like you're just adding to their luck,
Hmm.
and then that's just the weird thing for me is that they don't have the defensive personnel to be an elite defense right now. In terms of their perimeter guys, I'm surprised that it hasn't come together. Maybe they're just hiding it, they're saving it for the playoffs, which is they tend to do that in general.
Mm.
But I think the Raptors have consistently shown that they're so good defensively, and they
Yeah.
have enough creation from Barnes and the shot creation from Ingram to at least get through the plan. They're close. They're interesting. They've been fun, but I don't know. I don't buy it.
Yeah, I'm not ready for it. Yeah, and you talked about the Heat. It's just like so interesting that obviously they've had games this season where they've been like averaging the most points in the league. They've looked absolutely phenomenal offensively, which like obviously has been exceptional. You give credit to Eric Spoelstra what he's been able to do with the hand that he's been dealt. But then you also look at some of the games where they're like giving up like 80 in a quarter. That's feel like that's happened like multiple times in the last like week, and they're just getting absolutely obliterated. The Heat are just such a mixed bag right now. You don't really know what you're going to get from them, which is so very, very unheat like. They're obviously still waiting for that big chip player to come on down and save them from this purgatory. But yeah, I don't really believe in the Heat. Maybe they can find their way out of the play-in. Spoelstra going head to head with anyone in a one v one kind of matchup. I feel like I'd maybe favor the Heat, but in terms of actually getting and making any noise in the playoffs, it's probably famous last words, but I just don't see it with the Heat this year.
Yeah, we'll clip that.
Any final thoughts before we finish up?
No, man, it's tight. I think we easily predict what the first round's going to look like for the top two. I don't think there's any question marks that we're going to get the Pistons and Celtics coming up. But this middle chunk is really interesting. They have their flaws, but they have really, really great strengths. They have a lot to prove, and I think there's a lot of fear associated with these teams. I think 76ers feel like they're playing with a little bit of house money. They finally got everyone healthy. Nobody believed in them. There's not a ton of organizational pressure. It's almost like, hey, we're here. Let's do something. But there is just some really serious organizational pressure in New York, in Cleveland, and I think when you play against a team with little less pressure, maybe playing free, it should be an interesting first couple games in these matchups. Whoever ends up matching up with who, when it comes down to just the narratives that come out of it.
Yeah, for sure. There's absolutely like you look at like a Joel Embiid, like this could be a complete like legacy changing playoff run if he's able to be healthy for it and can inspire the 76ers. The Celtics again, they're kind of playing with house money. They knew they were going to be here, but no one else really thought they were going to be here. And like, let's see what they do this year. The Pistons again, this is still like early in their growth. The pressure really is all on. I think both the Knicks and the Cavaliers. They're the team under the most pressure to come out of the East. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they both handle it in the final week of the regular season, which we are about to enter, and then heading on into the playoffs. But that's going to do it for today's episode. We'll be here to discuss the implications of the final playoff picture when we get to that. But for now, thanks for sticking with us. Chris, thank you always for joining me. And remember, we are everywhere on social media at Coast to Coast NBA. And most importantly, remember to take every shot and love every moment.
Peace out.